Sorry about that. I apologize. Like I was saying, my name is Wilfred Salter Owen. I was born on March 18th, 1893, near Oswestry in Shiresteer, West Midlands of England. Eldest of the siblings, I lived in a comfortable house owned by my grandfather, Edward Shaw. After my grandfather passed away, unfortunately, we moved into the back streets of Birkenhead. At one point, when I got older, I was employed at a railway company in town and worked for very small wages. While I was in school, I was working, and I was educated at the Birkenhead Institute at Shrewsbury Technical School. I loved poetry at one point, and I discovered this in around 1904-ish. Early influences were the Bible. Loved reading the Bible. Great book. I don't know who wrote it. Great book. And the Big Six. Big Six is a book written in my time era. From 1912, I worked as a private tutor teaching English, even though I struggle with English, and French in France, where I met the French poet Laurent Tahid. I eventually returned back to England. I love my home. And on October 21st, 1915, I enlisted in the Artist Rifle Officers Training Corps, where I trained for the next 7 months at Hare Hall Camp. On June 4th, 1916, I commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Manchester Regiment. Very tough times, but I wanted to serve my country. During battle, I fell into a shell hole and I suffered a concussion. And I was blown up by a trench mortar. Not literally blown up, but I was injured, and I spent several days unconscious on an embankment among the remains of my fellow officers, friends I had made over those 7 months. I was soon diagnosed with shellback when they brought me to the hospital, and they sent me to Craig Longhart War Hospital. When I was in the hospital, I remarked to my mother, "Some of us have been sent down from here as a little mad. Possibly I am among them. Yeah, I might have been a little crazy, but war does that to you." So when I was there, I met this poet. His name is Siegfried Sassoon. Great name. Good guy. When we were at Craig Longhart, he did some teaching we both did some teaching at the Tynecastle High School. In November of that year, we were discharged from the hospital, and then we were sent right back into the front line in that winter in the northern Yorkshire area. My 25th birthday, I actually spent in a cathedral called the Ripon Cathedral when I was commissioned and when I was at war. I returned in July of 1918 to active duty. At the very end of August in 1918, I returned to the front line and led units of the 2nd Manchester to storm a number of strong points near the village of Johncourt. I was awarded the Military Cross, where I wanted to have to justify myself as a war poet. That was one of my biggest goals, as being both a soldier and a lover of poetry. Unfortunately, yes, I was killed in action on November 4th, 1918, when we were crossing the Sambrai-Oise Canal, exactly 1 week before the armistice was signed. Shucks, right? I was promoted to the rank of lieutenant the day after my death, and I was buried in a communal cemetery in northern France. Not really a fan of France, not sure why I was buried there, but I am considered one of the best poets of all time. In war, at least. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Owen.
What? Who is that?
I'm God.
God? Why are thy talking to me?
I just got some stuff to say about your poem. I read it and I just wanted to kind of break it down.
God, you read my poem?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Well, let's speak it to me.
All right. Well, I noticed that you were the speaker in your poem.
Yes.
And, yep. You set the tone with a sad tone, and the audience was the people recruiting kids for the military and those who didn't know the true horrors of war.
Yes, indeed. I was aiming for more of an experience, trying to make sure that people weren't misinformed when it came to enlisting in the army.
Yes, I see. You also, it was mostly, I can tell, it was mostly about you remembering being out on the battlefield of World War I, surrounded with your fellow soldiers, and how awful the conditions were. Everyone was getting sick. They looked dead. The gas attack when your friends died, you brought that up.
Very sad.
Yes, it was. You
You
conveyed that very well.
Yeah, I understand why you didn't stop it. You know, your God and everything.
Yeah, I know. I'm busy sometimes. I'm sorry. But you were in the middle of a wooded battlefield. You were surrounded by your struggling comrades. You described the event of a gas attack while your platoon was already in pieces in pain. There was one fellow soldier who wasn't quick enough to retrieve his gas mask, dying a painful death.
Frickin' Richard.
I'm assuming you were compelled to write this poem because you felt that it should be known to the people at home what the true reality of war is like on the front lines, helpless in a lifeless hell.
It was necessary.
We can talk about how the form of how you wrote your poem. I noticed you used a series of similes and a rhyme scheme to make the structure stronger and more descriptive.
Yes, I like to use a wide vocabulary.
In the beginning, you also used an A-B rhyme scheme that is continued throughout the poem in every stanza.
ABC 1 2 3.
Here we have a quote for you. I'm sure you're very familiar with it, but I'll for our listeners here, I'll read it for them again. Bent double like old beggars under sacks. Knock-kneed, coughing like hags. You okay?
Bad memories.
Knock-kneed, coughing like hags. We cursed through the sludge. Till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. I noticed you use a variety of similes to better the poem, and here's a quote, another one. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling, and floundering like a man in fire or lime.
Frickin' Richard.
With the scene of the battlefield itself, it gave the readers of the poem an idea of how harsh the conditions were, gave us a better understanding of what the soldiers felt with both physical and mental pain during the war.
Yes.
The one soldier who couldn't get his gas mask on, it gives the readers a vivid description of the pain being so overwhelming that it had made a damaging imprint on the speaker's memory yourself, and you couldn't wash it away. The description of the facial expression on this fellow soldier was just so vivid, the way he screeched in agony. We can take a break if you need to.
I'm okay, don't worry about it.
You alright?
Yes, God.
Well, that's all I got for you, really, for this interview.
So, you might have thought maybe it was God, but really it was just my partner. Appeals! We chose Dulce et Decorum Est because it gives us a realistic point of view of war, based on a glorified perspective. The speaker in the poem, Wilfred, Owen, myself, gives the readers a vivid description of a warlike setting by using creative similes, metaphors. In the second and third lines, Owen states, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge. So on the haunting flares, we turned our backs. I know you've heard the poem, the quote like 3 times. I get it. This gives the reader an opportunity to use their imagination to procure a vivid sight of the horrors of war. We like the way Owen used the current media status of the ways war is glorified by the government versus the actuality of what actually happens on the front lines. The ending of the poem was the phrase Dulce et Decorum Est pro patria mori. The old line means to honorably die for one's country, showing that the government wants to portray war as an honorable and respectful way of serving your country. Yet they leave out all the death, horror, and self-sacrifice involved in this commitment. Reactions. Both of us know people who have served in this country, both me and my group member, God. And we know that it is honorable, but it is not something people should get themselves into just for the heroic title as a veteran. The emphasis on the horrors really show how war can change a man from being the most social person in the room to the man in the back corner shaking from anything reminding him of what he went through. Both of us can recall watching war movies when we were younger, depicting gas scenes and explosive attacks, which gave us help in visualizing what Owen was describing during the gas attack in that poem. Almost every day when you walk around, you can see veterans who have gone through the struggles of war and how it has taken a toll on them. Number 3. We both think that this poem should be read to everyone because it would give a good understanding of what a true war experience is like. This poem should be more directed at the upcoming generation that is thinking of entering the military. We both think that because it in an individual's best interest to know the harsh truths of war, because joining for the honor of the glory is not what they should do, and it should be the purpose of serving their country. When you read this poem, you should approach it with an open mind, because it is not an actual depiction of war in today's day and age, but it gives the reader a general understanding of what it could be like. If we were given the chance to speak to Wilfred Owen, I'm talking to myself right now, we would tell him that we would recommend his poem to many, but specifically to those who are considering to enter the service. We would tell them that his poem is well constructed and that it could have a large impact on a person's decision in enlisting. Owen was a standout poet who brought a different perspective to the table than what government propaganda and military promoters were aiming for. We appreciate Owen's determination in showing his audience what reality and what's unglorified honor. Thank you very much, and if you'd like to donate, there's a link at the bottom of the screen. Please send us your best and kind remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. We'll be back next time for Ryan Talks. Have a good one.